Hey, thanks for joining us on Sunday evening here for our studies in 1 Samuel chapter 29. You might notice that we got a little different setting here. Actually, in my living room today. Some of you know my schedule's been all messed up lately. For a while I had mom and dad in separate hospitals at the same time, but mom's back home and dad's supposed to come home next Thursday, so maybe we'll get back on our regular schedule. But due to the flexibility of being able to video beforehand and still set it to launch at 6 o'clock on Sunday evening, so here I am on Saturday afternoon videoing for you. So chapter 29 of 1 Samuel is where we've gotten to. It's 11 verses, just a very short chapter, and the purpose of this chapter tonight is it's there to explain what a terrible predicament David got into and how he got out of it. Remember, King Saul was trying to kill David. David had an opportunity more than once to kill Saul, but he wouldn't do it. He didn't think it was the right thing to kill his nation's king. But he finally left the country. So he went down to the land of the Philistines. And while down in the city of Gath, he met one of the Philistine kings named Achish. And him and Achish hit it off pretty good. And David used that opportunity to show Achish that he was willing to be loyal to him while in his land, but David would go out and fight against these nations that were enemies of the Philistines, but he also made sure that they were always common enemies of God's people, Israel. Well, now we get to where we're at here in chapter 29. We see Israel amassing troops and the Philistines amassing troops, so that puts David in a very bad situation here. And to be honest with you, I don't know how he would have gotten out of it, except that God intervened. But my advice to you would be, try not to allow yourself to get put in bad situations, because God may not work a miracle for you. God may say, you got yourself into this, get yourself out of it. But for David, I think God worked it out, even though most commentators believe that David should have never went down here in Ziklag anyway, but he left his country. And he's here, verse 29. Here's the explanation, or chapter 29, verse 1. So now the Philistines gathered together all their armies to Aphek, a place called Aphek. And the Israelites, they pitched or gathered theirs together by a fountain or a stream, which is in Jezreel. So the armies are amassing. And the lords of the Philistines passed on by hundreds and by thousands. But David and his men, they passed in the rearward with Achish. So they began to fall into the rear of the Philistine army. Now here's David. He's lining up to fight against his own people. He don't know what to do. He gets his 600 mighty men and they go to the back of the line. So verse 3, then said the princes of the Philistines, what do these Hebrews here? What do these Hebrews do? We're fighting the Hebrews. What do we got some on our side here? So what do these Hebrews here? And Achish said unto the princes of the Philistines, is not this David, the servant of Saul, the king of Israel, which been with me these days? And he's been with me for these years, and I've found no fault in him, since he fell unto me unto this day. From the day I met him, he's been a faithful servant of mine. And the princes of the Philistines were wroth with him, with Achish, I guess. And the princes of the Philistines said to him, make this fellow return, that he can go again to his place, which they have appointed him, and let him not go down with us to battle, lest in the battle he be an adversary to us. For wherewith should he reconcile himself to his master? What better way for him to get back with his own people than to turn against us in this battle? Should it not be with the heads of these men? Is not this David, of whom they sang? Remember the song that started all this after they came back from battle. Saul and David got mentioned in a song, and they were singing about how Saul slew his thousands and David his 10,000s. Of course, Saul felt like he was getting embarrassed, and that's where all this jealousy and stuff started against David. That's him, though, the Philistines said. Verse 6. So verse 6 said, then Achish, the Philistine king, he called David and said unto him, surely as the Lord liveth, you've been upright, and thy going out and thy coming in with me in the host is good in my sight. For I've not found evil in thee since the day of your coming unto me this day. You're okay in my book, David, the Philistine king says, but nevertheless, the rest of them don't like you. These lords favor thou not. Now, wherefore now return and go in peace, that thou displease not the lords of the Philistines. You better go back, David. You can't fight with us today. And David said to Achish, I think David should have said, well, thank you. Sorry I can't fight with you and get out of there, because he don't want to fight against Israel. So David said to Achish, but what have I done, and what hast thou found in thy servant so long as I've been with thee to this day, that I can't go and fight against the enemies of my lord the king? I mean, it sounds, I don't know if he's just trying to convince Achish here or not, but it's almost like David's become literally one of them, don't it? And Achish answered and said to David, I know that you're good in my sight. You're like an angel of God, David. You're an angel. Notwithstanding, the princes of the Philistines have said, he shall not go up with us to battle. Wherefore now rise up early in the morning with your master's servants that are come with thee. And as soon as you be up early in the morning and have light, depart. So tomorrow morning you get out of here, David. So David and his men rose up early to depart in the morning, to return to the land of the Philistines. And the Philistines, they went up to Jezreel, where the battle's about to begin. But as I said once before, it's like, I don't know what David was thinking or how he was going to get out of this, but I think the Lord intervened to make sure David didn't fight against God's own people, but he was in a very bad situation. And I guess the lesson is just try not to let yourself get in those bad situations. David didn't mean to, but if he hadn't went down to Ziklag to start with, he wouldn't have ended up in that situation. Stay in your own lane. See you next time.